Hello and welcome to Section 3 of Ethics, Human Rights and Health, where we will be discussing sexual and reproductive health and rights. I regularly say that all the courses in HCRI should have a trigger warning attached, as every week we discuss very sensitive material on a daily basis. However, I'm very aware that this week's content may be triggering for some of you. So I will be going through in a minute a brief outline of what we'll be discussing, what you'll be covering this week. But I would like to make it clear to you that if you find a particular section upsetting, please move on to a section where you are comfortable, and you're always welcome to pop into my office hours and we can either discuss that, or I can point you services that might be available to help as well if that's something you would like to discuss. So let's go through the content for this week. I'll begin in a few minutes by taking you through what is meant by reproductive and sexual health. And then following this, there's another video on reproductive health and human rights in Section 1. Then we will look at SRH, so sexual reproductive health, as a fundamental right in Section 2, including discussing universal access before delving a bit deeper on the record of the Millennium Development Goals and RSH in Section 3. Section 4 will take you through maternal health and human rights, including maternal mortality and morbidity, before we explore how can a rights-based approach contribute to improved maternal health, and RSH more generally in Section 5. In Section 6, we have a spotlight on a few of the neglected issues on RSH, including unsafe abortion, family planning, and contraception, as well as female genital mutilation, before we look at reproductive health in conflict and crisis situations in Section 7. So you will find each week that we are covering a lot of information and we have a lot of content to go through. I've marked a few of the different sections as either optional or as extension activities. These are designed to expand your learning in the area if this is something that, or a topic that you're passionate about or that you'd like to be learning more about. Or if you're planning to write your essay on this topic, then I would go back to those areas, go back to those readings and go into greater depth with them. Please don't feel that you have to do all of the extension activities every week, but choose topics which you would like to explore in greater depth. Yeah, they're there to kind of help expand your learning. Also, any of the required readings for each week are they're stated within the document which readings you're meant to be doing, which are mandatory and which ones are optional. Right, let's get started. So, the Program of Action agreed by 179 countries at the Cairo International Conference on Population and Development, the ICPD, in 1994, and it defines reproductive and sexual health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, in all matters relating to the reproductive system and to its function and processes. Reproductive health therefore implies that people are able to have a satisfying and safe sex life, and that they have the capability to reproduce and the freedom to decide if, when, and how often to do so. Implicit in this last condition are the right of men and women to be informed and to have access to safe, effective, affordable, and acceptable methods of family planning of their choice, as well as other methods of their choice for regulation of fertility, which are not against the law, and the right of access to appropriate healthcare services that will enable women to go safely through pregnancy and childbirth and provide couples with the best chance of having a healthy infant. So in line with the above definition of reproductive health, reproductive healthcare is defined as the constellation of methods, techniques, and services that contribute to reproductive health and well-being by preventing and solving reproductive health problems. It also includes sexual health, the purpose of which is the enhancement of life and personal relations, and not merely counseling and care related to reproductive and sexually transmitted diseases. So, in order to realize these goals, all people need access to appropriate information and education to enable them to make decisions concerning sexual health and reproductive health. They need to be able to make these decisions free from discrimination, coercion, and violence, and need access to the means of making their decisions a reality. Let's summarize that. We have pregnancy and childbirth is covered within reproductive and sexual health, and maternal health more generally. Protection of women, men, and children from emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Family planning, so counseling and services for men and women. Treatment and prevention of sexually transmitted infections, so STIs. Discouragement of harmful traditional practices, so female genital mutilation, forced marriage. And it's important to note that RSH is not synonymous with women's health. RSH incorporates the sexual and reproductive health of men and women, boys and girls. However, it's also important to note that the global burden of sexual and reproductive ill health is disproportionately greater for women and girls. For this reason, much of the theoretical debates and most of our case studies in this session relate to women's RSH and issues of gender equity. So I'll leave that there for our general discussion of what is SRH. Move on to the next sessions. As always, if you have any questions, please post them up on the discussion board, and myself or TA will get back to you as soon as possible. And I'll speak to you soon on these topics.